This video, or what I'm going to be doing today, is working on lesson 16 in the book. Apple's already provided sort of or the iBook has already provided a lot of what you need to make this app work. And we're going to be working on using a couple tools we've just worked with, which is using structs and using arrays to create a pretty robust, nice little app. It's not a perfect app, but it's got some nice nice qualities to it. So I'm going to show you first what the finished product of the app is going to look like, so you kind of have an idea of where we're going with this. And then, we will get into walking through what they have for making this all work. So when you run the app, when it's complete, you're going to get a little message here. Hello, I'm Chatbot. Please ask me a question. And then you can ask it some questions. And it's going to look like it's thinking, and then it's going to give a response. And the cool thing here is that the app is set up so that it keeps track of, what you typed goes in one spot, what the bot typed goes in another, just like you're texting, and it has some sort of pre-programmed answers, and this is something that if you've already done the first question bot, you can really easily import what you wrote for that for answering the questions. I think this one already has the where are the cookies? I believe this should give me a sort of pre-programmed answer in the cookie jar, and this sort of keeps going. This chatbot's kind of nice because it keeps track on the screen of your previously asked questions and sort of when you asked them. So, all right. So let's start walking through the lesson. First thing, here they just sort of introduce what the app is going to do, which I sort of described to you already. And then, so let's actually open up the app that they've created that is not completed. The first thing they have in the textbook is just to sort of walk through, what do we have here? What is already here, and what do we need to work on? Okay. So one nice place to start is to look at the storyboard, the main storyboard. What does the screen look like when when you're actually running it? Okay. Now, one thing they have set up here, when you first open this screen for the first time, it may look like there's nothing. Okay, just scroll over. This is what it's going to look like. They've got what's called a table view set up, and you can see we've got question text, answer text, message date. We've got this is what it's going to look like. We already sort of saw that. The launch screen is empty. It's just when the app starts up, it's just going to be a white screen. All the apps that you work on in this book don't really do anything with the launch screen, but that's something that you could explore if you wanted to. So notice here that we've got thinking cell.swift. So this is our first actual Swift file. Everything here in the UI folder, the user interface folder, is already complete. We don't have to touch anything, but it's kind of cool to sort of see what's going on. And if you'll notice, thinking cell, this is where we actually this is the programming that creates the little thinking where the three dots are going across. And the cool thing, if you go down to the assets, this is how it gets it. It just has three different images, and so it just runs through those. And really, it's not actually the app's not actually thinking. The logic for this is super simple, but this is just kind of a fun way to actually implement. The next thing is the conversation cell. This adds a date label, creates the time, and then the ask cell. This is where you're actually typing in your text. Okay. Now, this one in the controller is the conversation view controller. This is a really complicated, really huge programming file. This file is already done. If you really want to dive in and really explore what's going on with Swift, you can dive in here and try to follow along with what's happening. Okay. Now, what we're going to be looking at is the files that are in model, okay, in the model folder. This first one, once again, this one's already complete, but a couple things you need to know. They use an enumerator. This is something that's actually covered in the book a little bit later, but essentially what we do here is we've got two things, and this is how we can tell whether or not we have a question or whether we have an answer. Okay, and then we've created a struct called message. Okay, every message has three attributes. It has a date, it has a text, and it has a type. Okay, the date is just that. It's a date. The text is a string. That's either what's being asked or what's being answered, and then the type, that's that enumerator I talked about. It's either a question or an answer. And then we have this opening line, which is all that is it's a message, and that's what the message that will eventually is going to greet us on the when we first open the app. Okay. Now this next one, question answer.swift, this should look familiar. Okay, this is one of the versions that we created when we first made our first QuestionBot, our first chatbot. Okay, and this is a real basic one. It has something for when you answer hello, or when you say hello, for when you ask where are the cookies, and then it has just some random ones. So this is something, if you want, when you're creating this, if you want to go back to that previous QuestionBot and load in your question answer into here and copy and paste, you can do that. You don't need to, because this lesson is more about working with some other stuff with the app. But feel free if you don't think this is enough. Okay. What we will be working on through this lesson is creating this file, this conversation data source. Okay. So a couple things to note here. Okay. Notice we have a constant called message count. Okay, and they did a good job of sort of documenting what we're working with here. So this is the number of messages in the conversation. Okay, it's 0. Okay, we have adding a new question to the conversation, so a function for adding a question. Okay, and then a function for adding an answer. Okay? And then finally a function to get a message at a particular index. Okay. So now, unfortunately, what's in here right now literally doesn't do anything. What they have set up here, I can type in questions, and notice that we don't get the greeting. It was set, but it's not showing up here. So I can type in like hello there. Okay. It thinks, okay, but then nothing shows up. I can say where are the cookies? Okay. Once again, it thinks and then does nothing. But if you notice down here in Xcode, the console is doing work. Okay. It asked a question. Okay. It then mentions here this warning that the table view, is set at 0, and then it produces an answer, it processes another question, and produces another answer. So the program knows what we need to do. It knows it needs to gather those questions and respond to them with answers. But unfortunately, it's only showing up at the console and not in the actual app. So we're going to run through a few steps here to get things to actually work, so that this will actually things will actually show up on the phone when we actually run the app.